Hello and thanks for staying with LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Morno Balagbobo. Tonight we'll first begin with updates from NEMA regarding flooding across the country. The National Emergency Agency, NEMA, has said that the current trend of flooding indicates that 29 states and 172 local government areas have been impacted. That's over 1,048,312 people affected, 625,239 displaced, and 259 deaths recorded nationwide. Sad, and our hearts goes out to everyone in Maiduguri, Borno State, who's been affected by this flood. Those displaced, our hearts are with you, and we hope that Nigerians will be dutiful enough to support those who have been affected. In an update, the Director General, NEMA, Zubeida Umar, said that the statistics were released on Thursday at the National Emergency Coordination Forum ECF meeting to review strategies and to reassign responsibilities in the face of current realities in the pattern and management of disasters nationwide, including Borno State, where a search and rescue operation is ongoing. Meanwhile, NEMA says that the widely reported flooding in Maiduguri, Borno State is beginning to recede as of today, and normalcy is returning to the metropolis. And of course, we are very happy about the situation. Now, in relation to the flooding in the country, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency has advised governments, emergency managers, and relevant bodies to make use of weather forecasts for effective planning, which is something that I hoped would have instigated government to do something about some of these key areas that there were actually initial warnings for. I mean, every week since 3 months now, we've been getting notifications from NIMET across the northeast zone regarding rainfalls, heavy rainfalls, and some of these rainfalls lead to flooding and contribute to what we experience as flooding in the country. And if due diligence was taken by the government, many would argue that we would not be in this situation. Well, away from flooding, our major conversation tonight will focus on Tinubu'S handling of the economy. Things are tough for a lot of people. Well, tonight we'll x-ray the impact of Tinubu'S economic reforms. That's our first talking point. We'll look at the implications, of proposed VAT increase, which has been debunked, and address an impact of hike in fuel prices. Our guest tonight is no other person but Dr. Samson G. Simon, economist. He's the chief economist at Economics and Data Limited. We'll have him with us shortly. Also tonight, we'll look at Nigeria's fuel crisis. Our talking points will look at the calls for fuel price hike reversal despite federal government's position, and also lingering scarcity of petroleum motor spirit, addressing all of that, and also stabilizing the price of PMS. Our guest tonight is an expert, Martin Ayankola. He's a seasoned business editor, well-versed in Nigeria's oil and gas sector, and he will be helping us make sense of why Nigeria, as rich as we are as a nation, we're still struggling with the issue of fuel. We'll be right back to break it down shortly. Welcome back. President Tinubu'S economic policies continues to impact Nigeria's cost of living crisis. Some of Nigeria's economic challenges that needs fixing range from, you talk about surge in inflation, high interest rates, weakening naira, the oil and gas industry challenges, insecurity across the country affecting agricultural productivity, amongst others. But for some people, those are key issues. And the president has been working around it, but the impact and the reality of it all still tells that a lot still has to be done. Now, President Bola Tinubu welcomed the National Bureau of Statistics news report, which states that Nigeria recorded another trade surplus in the second quarter of 2024, hitting 6.95 trillion naira. Now, according to the report, the current surplus is 6.60% higher than the 6.5 trillion naira surplus that was recorded in the first quarter. In a statement by the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, President Tinubu expressed confidence in his reforms and his administration in pursuing and the economic change that he wants to see in the nation. And he says that they will create a more robust economy that will usher in a new era of prosperity for Nigerians. The NBS report, according to the presidential aide, he says it reflects the country's strong export performance in the second quarter and comes just days after the country recorded almost 100% oversubscription of its first $500 million domestic bond and half-year revenue of 9.1 trillion naira. The NBS reported that the exports drove the second quarter surplus to Europe, the United States, and Asia. And while President Tinubu has time and time again stated that though his policies are tough and painful, they are necessary for the preservation of future Nigerians. But Nigerians are crying. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar recently criticized the federal government's proposed increase of the value-added tax, which has been debunked by the special aide to the president, Bayo Onanuga. But recall that Atiku warned that the move will excavate Nigeria's already dire economic situation. And in a post on his official X Twitter account, on Sunday, Atiku expressed concerns that the proposed tax hike, along with other recent government policies, will deepen the cost of living crisis, hurt businesses, and disproportionately impact the poor. He described the VAT increase as a blazing inferno that could further destabilize Nigeria's fragile economy. But on Monday, the Minister of Economy refuted the claim, stating that VAT still remains at 7.5% and not 10%. Now, on Wednesday still, the Finance Minister of Economy, Wale Edun, said Nigeria's first ever foreign currency bond has secured $900 million in subscriptions. But what does all this economics mean for Nigeria? He noted that the oversubscription reflects investor confidence in Nigeria's economy, stability, and potential for growth. Well, joining us to make sense of all this so-called information about Nigeria's economic growth, which many would argue is not really reflecting in terms of addressing the issue of economic hardship. How these two go hand in hand, Dr. Simon will be joining us via video call from Abuja to make sense of the nation's economy and the dilemma that is the economic hardship. We have word that Doctor is with us. Thank you, sir, for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Doctor, how will you look at the economic policies of President Bola Tinubu and its impact on the masses? It's 1 year plus now, and when Nigerians thought they were adjusting to things, I mean, recently, fuel price, went up. And I mean, Labour said during their negotiations with government that, they said they could not pay the 250K that they wanted as new minimum national wage. But here we are. Fuel prices are up and Nigerians are dealing with these policies from this administration. What are your thoughts?
It has not been easy for Nigerians to make the announcement that subsidy is gone. And since then, things have been beyond tight for an hour. And then the accompanying high cost of living crisis that has really hammered the average Nigerian. Food has been too expensive. Nigeria is arguably the most expensive place to buy food for a Nigerian. And also the availability is also affected. And we're not only talking about food alone now, because food is the most important thing. That's why I started with it. But generally, across board, the cost of living is beyond high. And you look at everything else because of the ripple effects of the subsidy, because of the hike in the price of fuel. And then even the floating of the naira too has made an already bad situation extremely worse for the Nigerian. As a government, your primary mandate is the welfare of the people. You're supposed to make lives better for the citizens, not worse. But so far, things have been going from bad to worse. Things have been really getting worse by the day. So I don't think this is the right way to go about it. The president has considered that it's not easy, he really understands. But I beg to differ. If you really understand that people are going through hard times, then you should not make it even worse for them. You should make it better. On paper, theoretically, we know that subsidy removal may be the right thing, and then allowing just a single window of exchange between the naira and foreign exchange. Maybe for the government, they can heave a sigh of relief, because technically what they are doing, they are transferring this cost to citizens instead of the government to bear this cost. So for the government, maybe they are getting relief from this. But for the people, there's no relief whatsoever, and the benefits of all these reforms might not be in sight for the Nigerian. That's the unfortunate situation.
Dr. Simon, President Tinubu says hard decisions but necessary. How do you balance economics and the welfare of the people?
To a large extent, that some of these things have to be done, right? But the way you go about it is as important as doing those things. And sadly, the way we are going about it is just making the objective of governance to be completely defeated. Like I already mentioned, the crux, the result, the trap for having government in place is welfare of the people. Then the essence is completely defeated. I understand that government could not have afforded the payment of subsidy. I really understand that our tax to revenue, tax to GDP ratio is poor, and there's a need to increase taxes, right? But the way you go about it is as important as doing those things. So you don't just wake up and just start hiking prices of refined fuel. There's a need for a plan. There's a need for a strategy. And I've always been shouting myself hoarse that one strategy the authorities could have used. Nobody wants subsidy, for example, for the sake of subsidy. Why do you need subsidy? So that it will bring down the pump price of fuel. That's why you need subsidy. So if you don't want to pay subsidy, what strategy can you adopt in such a way that the price of fuel can be relatively okay or relatively low while not paying through your nose for subsidy? One strategy is ensuring domestic refining. And not only domestic refining will be enough, you have to ensure supply of crude to these domestic refineries. If you do that, you're cutting out a lot of costs, whether it's the shipping, the landing cost up to the ports will be cut out. Then another thing is that all these foreign exchange rates, and mind you, what they are claiming is that they are not paying subsidy. That's what NMPC claims, that what they are paying is FX differential. So you can cut out this FX differential if you ensure domestic refining and domestic supply of feedstock to these refineries. And then even geoeconomics and geopolitics, all these risks will completely be cut out. So these are some of the things they should have done. They were not done. And that's why the price of fuel keeps climbing. So while these things are necessary, the government cannot afford to maintain all these things. And another thing is, you don't only look at the costs to the authorities for anything, whether it's subsidy or the exchange rates, pegging the exchange rate. You look at the benefits. If the benefits by far outweigh the cost, then even if it's costing you half of the budget, you keep it. But if you look at the costs are by far more than the benefits, then it's not worth it. I think we are just fixated on the cost, sadly. And that has not really augured well for the Nigerian people and even for the state. So we need to be very intentional about the results we're looking for, and we need to look at everything on balance. We should not be quick to draw conclusions based on just one side of the argument that is costing so much. What about the benefits? They said subsidy is only benefiting the rich, which is completely untrue. Basically, I think we need to go beyond politics in everything that we do. I think what really matters should be the results. I know if something is the right thing to be done, that does not mean that you should just do it no matter how much it's going to cost. We have to weigh, we have to put everything on balance and see if it is worth it. And I think that we have not really gotten it. So that will continue to compound our problems instead of making us arrive at solutions that are sustainable and at the end of the day benefit the average Nigerian.
Dr. Simon, now again, still, how do we balance burdening Nigerians amidst the need to equally generate revenue? You recall Bill Gates was in Nigeria recently and was hammering on the fact that we need to do more regarding our internally generated revenue. And even the books tells us that this is true. But how do we do it in such a way that we don't bite on Nigerians? Because there's just so much that they can actually bear.
The opinion, the view of the former vice president is one-sided in the sense that he's only looking at how hiking the rates of taxation can actually make matters worse for the poor. But he's also not considering the fact that Nigeria has one of the lowest VAT rates in the world. And our tax revenue to GDP is also one of the lowest in the world. I think we are number 3 from the RIA. So when you're looking at things with him, with what he said, that when you increase taxation, that will make an already bad situation even worse. And I remember the coordinating minister for the economy promising that it's not necessarily the tax reform, is not necessarily about increasing the rates of taxation. It is about increasing, it might not be optimum. They might not be giving us the best result that we desire. So there's a need for reform. Like I said, only a handful of taxes actually generate the revenue. So how can you make these ones that are actually generating the revenue even better? And then even the ones that are not generating the revenue, how do you make them to really generate revenues that actually move the needle? So I think there's a need to increase our VAT rate. But I think the timing might be wrong because Nigerians are experiencing what some sources consider the worst cost of living crisis in a generation. So if you're experiencing worst cost of living crisis in a generation, it's the wrongest time to start hiking. Tax revenue to GDP ratio is one of the worst in the world. And our VAT rate is one of the lowest. So there's a need to increase the VAT rate. This is not a new thing. It has been in the offing for a while. And the only government is struggling to cover its expenses when you have been running deficit budgets for many years. That means your revenue is underperforming. There's a need to increase the revenue. But I think it's the timing that might be wrong because Nigerians are really suffering now. They're experiencing the worst cost of living crisis in a long while. So this is the wrongest time to start hiking tax rates. So I think that's where the authorities might have been a bit insensitive, following what the former vice president said. No, that's my comment on what he said.
Still on the economy, Dr. Simon, I would like to bring your thoughts and most especially to get your opinion on the state of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, which has been in the news, for some time right now. We're still dealing with fuel availability, the issue of the pricing. A lot of people are resorting to measures we thought we abandoned in the 19th century. But this is the 21st century, and this is still our reality as a nation. What are your thoughts?
The president made the infamous announcement that subsidy is gone more than a year ago. But they started paying for subsidies shortly after that, I think by August. So it's only for June and July that by records, subsidies were not paid. But since August, we have been paying for subsidy and the subsidy has been ballooning. So let's tell ourselves the truth. Market forces are not the ones determining the pump price of fuel within Nigeria because government still pays the difference. And with Dangote coming on stream, people thought that would help, if not with the price, then at least with supply, so that we always have constant supply of fuel anytime we go to the filling station. Sadly, the authorities seem not to be really enthusiastic. While Dangote coming on stream might seem like good news, the authorities are not really enthusiastic. And you cannot ask Dangote to sell at market price while you subsidize the fuel that you import. It doesn't make sense. So it's the same where we're not really, we don't seem to have learned lessons from our mistakes in the past. So if what is good for the goose is also good for the gander. So if you're subsidizing imported fuel, then you should subsidize the consumption of Dangote refined fuel too, if you really want equity, if you really want the system to work. But telling Dangote to sell at market price while you subsidize the one you import does not make sense. And what you're telling Dangote is that he should not sell it in the Nigerian market. He can export it if he wants, and that's the likely scenario that will play out. So the queues are still there. When Dangote announced more than a week ago that refined fuel from his refinery was ready, he said within 48 hours, it can be accessed. So far, I don't think anybody has accessed it, or at least it has not reached the consumer. So there's a need for the authorities to make the most of this situation, no matter how much differences they have with the Dangote refinery. I think what they should do is to make the most of it. It's really good for them to consider the Nigerian consumer instead of whatever thing that they may be pursuing.
Dr. Simon, I'm afraid our time with you is up. Thank you so much for being with us. We hope to have you back with us on the show.
Thank you.
All right, you're still watching Politics Now right here from our studios in Abuja. We'll go on a quick breather. We'll be right back to delve into Nigeria's fuel crisis. Stay with us.
Dear viewers, on the 7th of September, we will be switching Lagos frequency from channel 36 to 33 and Abuja frequency from 33 to 36. Kindly rescan your television to get our signals on our new frequencies. Please be with us as we work to give you the best viewing experience. Ellen 24/7 Management.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues?
Order.
The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension. The instability of the system. Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch Politics Now on Ellen 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on Ellen 24/7.
Many thanks for still staying with us on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now, the station's flagship political program. This time around, we're looking at Nigeria's fuel crisis. Our talking points range from the calls, despite federal government's position that they're not going back and they're not responsible, that this time around market forces will be responsible for pricing. We'll still look at the lingering scarcity of the petroleum motor spirit product and stabilizing price in general. Martin Ayankola, energy expert, joins us from Lagos, Nigeria. Good to be with you on the show. But before we come to you, let's make it clear that the renewed calls for the reversal of the recent hike in fuel price has surged despite President Tinubu's justification. Let's remind you of what the president said in China last week.
All the questions we ask about what privileges that we could garner, but being listed, among the yes, we are discussing all of that. They are interested in the cultural diversity of the economy. They have the population. They have to service the population, and they are doing it. So it's in your hand to elevate Nigerians. We are not competing with any other nation. We are just part of a continent that is promising and is, forward-looking. And all I can promise you is good governance.
Well, that's our president there. But do recall the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, urged President Bola Tinubu to use his leadership and position and good offices to direct the Nigerian National Petroleum Company to immediately reverse what it described as the illegal and unconstitutional increase in the pump price of petroleum premium motor spirit, of course, popularly known as petrol, across its retail outlets. It's also urged the president to direct the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, and appropriate anti-corruption agencies to probe the allegations of corruption and mismanagement in the NNPCL, including the spending of the reported $300 million bailout funds collected from the federal government in August 2024 and the $6 billion debt it owes suppliers. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Senator Henry Lokubiri, has stated that the availability of petrol prices will result in the stability of prices across the country. And he noted that the industry had been deregulated and the government was no longer setting prices. And it's past weekend, why no improvement and how long will this continue to play out, is still key on the minds of Nigeria. Now, on the other side, the NNPC stated that it is waiting on September 15th, which is just a few days from now, the deadline that they will begin lifting petrol from the Dangote refinery. Does this mean till 15 before supply stabilizes? Because, we're close to the date anyway. I guess will help us make sense of it. Still on the NNPC, the global energy company with businesses and operations across the entire spectrum of the energy value chain, also denies being the sole distributor of Dangote refinery products. And the company said that the pricing of the petroleum from the refinery will be determined by market forces, adding that recent changes in the petrol prices have no impact at all on Dangote refinery or any other domestic refineries' access in the Nigerian market. And they said that the Dangote refinery and other domestic refineries are free to sell directly to any marketer or anybody that is willing to buy. So in response to the Muslim rights concern, which it alleged that Dangote Limited is being unfairly disadvantaged by NNPC's actions, the company has clarified that the petroleum product pricing, including that from the Dangote refinery, is driven by global market dynamics, not NNPC's involvement in the case. Well, Mr. Martin, good to have you on the show with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the issue of calls for the reversal of price hike, despite the economics of it all and the president's justification? Make it make sense for us.
I would say there is a lot of confusion in the market, in the petrol division market now, and I think the confusion has been caused by the government itself, which I think is very unnecessary. They are not speaking with a lot of clarity. Of course, in the Petroleum Industry Act, we should have started, the industry should have been deregulated by now. But because of the extremely weak economy and a lot of factors, government has been paying subsidy. And even with the recent NNPC announcements of, I think, 897 naira per liter, I believe that there still is some subsidy even in that announcement. Because going by the figures that we have, people have been saying that the landing cost of petrol is about 1,002. So if NNPC is still talking about 897 naira, that means there's still some subsidy even in that recent increase. But what I don't understand now is that NNPC seems to be 8897 is just for us. The other marketers can go to Dangote and discuss with it, and maybe discuss their own whatever, and they have their own arrangement with Dangote. So the fear is that if the marketers are left alone to discuss with Dangote, we may see a situation where people may be paying over 1,001, 1,002 for a liter of petrol in different parts of the country. So what we may have eventually is just NNPC stations having maybe selling at the NNPC rates, while the marketer will be selling well above the NNPC rate, just like we've been having for some time now. The same station will be having for some time now. So there's a bit of confusion. Government, yeah, because of, remember that NNPC is owing its suppliers, oil traders, about $6.8 billion. That just admitted to that recently. So I think they are trying to slash down that huge subsidy cost. And that's the cost of this, the cost of this present race. So, but whether it is sustainable is another issue, because the economy is extremely weak now and inflation is extremely high. So how will people cope? That's the question.
Okay, so why is NNPC paying subsidy if it's majorly a private entity? I know government has a stake in it.
No, NNPC is still essentially a government company. It's still essentially owned by government, you know. And Tinubu is the petroleum minister. The president is the petroleum minister. He's a substantive petroleum minister. He only has a junior minister. Most of these decisions must pass through the table of the president. He knows about them. That's why he was defending it in China, in faraway China. Was defending the recent increase in China. But my thought is that NNPC is also speaking from both sides of the mouth, so to say. Like I said, if they are still talking about 897 naira, that is not the appropriate price per se for petrol, because for imported petrol or for whatever, it's not the appropriate price. I guess the appropriate price would be in the region of 1,001, 1,002. So if they are still talking about 897 naira, they are still retaining some subsidy. Maybe they are just trying to reduce the cost. Now, but what we are looking at is that government, NNPC is saying, oh, we are going to pay 897, but they are leaving the other marketers to go and discuss with Dangote. So what you are going to get is what we've been having. NNPC will be, we know before now, NNPC was selling between maybe 560 something and 580 something, depending on where you're buying from. And the other filling stations, some are selling 700, 800, 900. So I think that's the scenario that they are trying to allow to continue. NMC will be selling slightly below the marketers, while the marketers will be selling at maybe 1,000, 1,002. I don't see Dangote, you know, it's not likely that Dangote will sell to the marketers for less than 1,000 naira. If they discuss that, I mean the independent and the private marketers, not NNPC now. I don't see Dangote selling to them below 1,000 naira.
Now, Mr. Martin, so that means the average Nigerian should brace up for further increase, and should they embrace this new reality? We're hearing of protests here and there, but what's your response?
I also don't think the time is right for total deregulation of the sector, as it were. I don't think so, because the economy is extremely weak. People are already suffering. And so, you know, every country has its own situations and challenges. So I think government still needs to play a role in moderating petrol prices. I think they still need to play a role in moderating petrol prices. People are already at a breaking point. So no matter what you say, you may say, oh, you are going to save trillions of naira and all that. But at the end of the day, people are already finding it hard to survive. So I think government, they need to work out. They need to work out, strike a balance, try to work out something. I think they still need to work out.
Now, given the president's response, some say he does not seem to care. What are your thoughts on this?
The president should understand that he's there because of us. He's there to serve us, to serve the people. So no matter what you do, you have to, and I think it's even written in the Constitution, you have to make the people pursue the happiness of the people. So if people are not happy, if they are hungry, you must find a way to strike a balance. That's the reason, if you look at it historically, that's why you see that there's no government in the past maybe 30 years that has not, or that did not tamper with petrol prices. Let's look back when Obasanjo was there from 1999. He did. When Obasanjo left, Yar'Adua came in. I'm not sure whether I think he lowered it, but Jonathan had to raise it again. And when Buhari came, he also did like 2 or 3 times. But what most of them have been doing is that they will raise it to reduce the deficit, the subsidy bill. They just raise it to reduce the but none of them actually removed subsidy totally. And when Tinubu also came in and tried it, then he devalued the naira. So he started to pay subsidy again, devaluing the naira. Because by the time the value of naira dropped to 1,006 against the dollar, the landing cost of petrol changed too. So he had to start. So I was even buying until recently, that we were even buying from NFP at 80 was because there was substantially subsidizing it. Otherwise, we should have been buying at 1,000 to 1,000, 1,001, 1,002. So I think governments need to play a role. The Nigerian economy is extremely weak. It's extremely weak now, and it will be extremely. It may have a terrible effect if government continues to say, we are not going to intervene, and we just allow the market. We will just allow market forces to determine prices. It may not work out well. It may not work out well.
So from the looks of things, refining locally does not really address the issue of price. This is a big problem. Help us make sense of it.
Well, maybe, if you look at it, there are a lot of factors that determine prices of, let me say, petrol or petroleum products now. For instance, if, let's say, the value of the naira appreciates against the dollar today, let's say if you have the value of naira appreciating to like 900 against the dollar, I'm just saying it, you will see a change there will be definitely, petrol prices will drop. So the challenge is that the price or prices of that commodity of petrol is dictated by mostly by a lot of external forces and just a few domestic or internal forces. So what you have is that, for instance, Dangote will be buying crude oil from the NNPC in naira, but at the international rate. So if Dangote is buying at $80 per barrel from the NNPC, it will just be paying the equivalent of $80 per barrel to NNPC in naira. So it's going to pay the international rate. It's going to I think the refining cost, the cost of refining a barrel of crude will also be in dollars and all that. So it took a lot of foreign loans to build the plant. So he will be repaying his loans. So he's not running a social service. He's going to look at his numbers and say, hey, I can only sell at 1,001, I can only sell at 1,002, you understand? So yeah, there will be a lot of advantages, the fact that we are producing locally.
Now, recall that last week, Lokpobiri stated that the availability of the product, guaranteed the availability of the product, but things are yet to get better. Why is this so?
All right. Yeah. I think what has been delaying what has been causing that supply hiccup is probably these discussions over pricing, and I think once we're able to get over that, there would be products everywhere. Dangote, yes, will also assist when they start to leave from Dangote on the 15th, as they said. It's going to ensure that there'll be product everywhere. But I think we are going to start to see gradual improvements. Yeah. Gradual improvement. I think by next week, probably we shouldn't have queues at filling stations any longer.
Now, on stabilizing the price, where do you see the final numbers getting to? And if there are variations, what would it look like?
Well, my thought is that there will be a lot of pressure on the government to reduce the price. I believe so. I believe that we are going to have a lot of pressures on pressure. There will be government will pressurize in the next coming 1 week, 2 weeks to bring down the price. I wouldn't know whether government will budge or not. But basically, I think I also think that it may be a bit difficult for people for Nigerians to bear the burden of and over 1,000 naira per liter petrol now. So I believe that maybe we may eventually have a sub 1,000 naira price, as the average price nationwide, maybe in the coming 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month. It may not happen quickly, but I believe that there will be a lot of pressure to put the price below 1,000 naira. NNPC has its own at 897. So if NNPC can come a little bit down to maybe like 700 or so, the other. But the challenge again is that they will have to sell according to what they buy. You understand? Now, the old arrangement was that NNPC was the main supplier. NNPC will do all the importation and then supply the marketers. Now, if NNPC is saying we are no longer supplying you, you go and get your own products from Dangote, then it will be almost impossible for marketer to sell below 1,000. So, but I believe that there will be discussions, there will be meetings, there will be arguments, and I have a feeling that eventually we may still have a sub 1,000 naira price nationwide. But I'm just being hopeful anyway. But if nothing changes, that means what we are going to have is NNPC will be selling at 897. And then others will be buying at 1,000, 1,002 in other filling stations, in the other private filling stations.
Now, if we have varying prices, will NNPC be able to handle the pressure of customers who opt for cheaper prices? Of course, we all expect that they will sell at cheaper prices.
I think NNPC has enough. They have enough presence nationwide. Yeah, you see, but anywhere you go now, you see NNPC. You see long queues at NNPC filling stations. But I think they have enough presence almost everywhere. So, but of course, people are still, just like we're doing before now. People will still go for people who will not be able to spend long time in queues. Will prefer to go and buy at 1,200, 1,250 elsewhere. But those who have the time, like the commercial people, they can spend 2-3 hours trying to buy from NNPC. So that's all you are going to continue to see. A situation where NNPC will be selling a bit cheaper than the other marketers. I think that's what we are still likely to do going forward.
Now, Mr. Martin, all this talk of fuel, petrol, and all of that, should the government begin to, focus more attention on the CNG alternative, as Nigerians are not looking at this at the moment, hence the pressure on petroleum?
I think, they've already started some pilot projects here and there. They've started to help people, especially I think commercial vehicles, to convert their vehicles to CNG. But I think they need to do that more. We need the energy mix so that we reduce the dependence on petrol. Because part of the problem is that we are too dependent on petrol. Remember, diesel is already deregulated. Nobody controls the price of diesel, and nobody has really been complaining because not many motorists use diesel, but most people use petrol. That's why we all talk about it. So, for instance, if they have cheaper options like CNG, if let's say 50 or 60% of commercial vehicles are using CNG, probably the pressure won't be this much, and the worry won't be this much. But the problem with government is that they always pursue all these projects half-heartedly. They will tell you they want to do it, but they will just do it. They will just have a piecemeal approach to it, and then it won't be done properly. So I think what they need to do now is to deepen that intervention deepen that CNG intervention to ensure that more and more vehicles are converted to CNG, so that there will be less dependence on petrol. There will be less dependence on petrol. It's something that we need to do. Government needs to encourage quickly and invest in.
Many thanks for your thoughts tonight, Mr. Martin Ayankola, energy expert. Hopefully we'll get to have you back on the show. And there you have it. That's our show tonight. Many thanks for watching. Once again, my name is Morna Balagubo. Stay with us always on Politics Now as we keep tabs on what is affecting us as a nation and how leadership plays into it. Good night.